USA Today's Christine Brennan with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. Of course, she's still in Washington, where this weekend at Chambers Bay was the U.S. Open. And Christine, how surprised are you still that we're talking to you about the completion of the U.S. Open, and right now we're not talking to you about a playoff that could have been happening today?
Well, I'm glad about that from the standpoint of I really did not need to go out there for another 18 holes of golf, but I am very surprised that Dustin Johnson three-putted from 12 feet. Although if you're going to three-putt from 12 feet, you would certainly do it on those greens. They were bad, as all the players said. What you see on TV, it's just as bad or even worse. So no surprise there, and Dustin Johnson's one of the worst putters, short putters on the PGA Tour, ranked 151st or something. So he lost, 3 strokes over 4 holes just as he made the turn on short putts, 3 bogeys and a very bad par when he could have easily gone par, birdie, par. So, the notion that was 4 strokes right there, all on bad putting, foreshadowing, of course, what would happen a couple hours later on the 18th green. So very surprised, but I'm not unhappy because it's time to move on and go to the next thing.
But Dustin Johnson is starting to develop a reputation as a quote unquote choker in majors, in big tournaments.
Yeah, I don't know that I like that term. There's certainly people who have choked in sports, and maybe this is the definition of it. I don't know that I've ever used that word in print or on air. Not because I don't necessarily think it's not true. I guess I'm just thinking that there are better words to describe it, but I know what you're getting at, of course, and I know many people have said it. I think that he did a great job to get himself back into it on 17. We kind of wrote him off after he was way behind after those bogeys, and then Steve came on, and meanwhile you had Adam Scott and Rory and Louis Oosthuizen all getting involved there with great rounds, and so. I give him credit for coming back into it on 17 and birding that hole. And then 18, he played it beautifully and until he actually had to putt. So, yes, it was there for the taking. Yes, he did not do it, so he blew it. But it was a tough course. And I guess with Dustin Johnson, I think there is a real question if now he can finish the deal. If he can finish, as we would say in soccer, with the Women's World Cup going on, can he finish? And I right now the answer is no, he cannot finish. So is that choking or is that just a hole in his game? I'm not sure that it's surmountable. I mean, wait till, my God, can you guys imagine the next time he's in this situation and the pressure that he'll be facing?
Yeah.
So I think that's really the issue there.
USA Today columnist Christine Brennan with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. Christine covered the U.S. Open over the weekend at Chambers Bay. Christine, when Dustin Johnson spoke yesterday, did he look rattled still? Did he look bummed out? What was his demeanor? Because walking off the course, he was smiling, and you saw him grab his kid, and he looked positive. Is there anything that leads us to believe that, gosh, this guy's just always going to have a mental block?
No, in fact, quite the opposite. He is about the most laid-back, kind of semi-out-of-it guy that you'd ever see, from the standpoint of, and I say out of it as a good thing in the sense of just kind of going along, hey, here I am. Obviously, issues for him with a suspension and being gone from the tour, and, I know reports, I don't know if it ever was made official, but he has certainly some issues there with his personal life and his personal habits. So hopefully that's cleared up, and he's got his act together there. But it's hard to figure this guy. When I look at him, and I don't know him, but when you look at him, you kind of go, what makes this guy tick? Dustin Johnson. What is he doing? Why does he do this? He's a great athlete. He obviously hits the ball a mile. It's perfect for a golf course like Chambers Bay. He is a great professional golfer who has a flaw, and it is short putt. So he's not the first, won't be the last. But, it's hard to wonder what makes him tick. I don't feel that way about Tiger. I don't feel that way about Phil. I don't feel that way about Jordan Spieth. But I do feel that way about Dustin Johnson. It's just hard to understand what's going on in his head. I think the fact that he is actually kind of looks at things in a simple way, and he seems to be a very calm, simple guy. I think that really helped him over the course of 4 days at this really tough course where everyone was whining and complaining and frazzled and losing it and having trouble on the greens and all the other stuff going on at the course. And rightly so, by the way. There were a lot of real controversies there. But he seemed to be the perfect temperament, and then he wasn't. And so isn't that golf for you? And that's one of the reasons why we watch and why we care.
Well, on the other side of that coin, 21 years old, Spieth now has the Masters and the U.S. Open. Is it too early to say that Spieth is the next great American golfer?
I don't think it is. When you got two majors in 2 months, and you're the first youngest ever to get both the Masters and the U.S. Open in your career, the youngest. No one's ever done it younger than Jordan Spieth to get those those majors. Not necessarily in the same year, but just to have them both on your resume, the Masters and the Open, U.S. Open. That's extraordinary. He is 21, going on 50. I every time he opens his mouth, I can't believe it. He's talking like someone twice or even older than twice his age. Extraordinary. The way he said last night in the press conference about you get moments in your life and you take advantage of them, and I know this won't last forever, and so I'm going to really relish these moments because these are the kinds of things that happen only rarely in your life. I mean, whoa! What 21-year-old says that? He's extraordinary. He is an amazingly mature, and polite, and centered, and grounded, and talented, intelligent young man. Extraordinary. I'm shaking my head as I'm talking to you guys. It's really something. I hope we don't hear that he's out robbing banks on the side. You know what I mean?
Well, he's got the cool head for it.
Pardon me?
Well, he has the cool head for that as well.
I guess he does, right? To crack the safe and rob the bank. Yeah, and of course I'm teasing, but it's the kind of thing. It's so good to be too good, almost too good to be true. Don't tell me that he's doing something bad. Extraordinary. So no, it's not too soon. Tiger Woods is obviously lost, gone. Phil Mickelson not playing well. Phil just turned 45. Tiger turned 40 in December, and here comes this guy. Wow, timing couldn't be better. Such a symmetry to it, really. Out with those guys, in comes this one, and he certainly is the real deal. You cannot. First of all, if he stops here with two majors, that's amazing. But 2 majors, and he's not yet 22. That's really extraordinary.
Christine, is the bigger story today the 3-putt for Dustin Johnson to end it, or Jordan Spieth's success?
I think today it's Spieth. We move forward looking into the British Open with Spieth. I think yesterday, last night, overnight, the news, the highlights are the 3-putt and that 4-footer going by, slipping by on Dustin Johnson's left side there as the crowd groans. So that's the news flash, that moment. I think now to the second day story, spin it forward, move it forward. I think it's all about looking ahead now to the fact that Jordan Spieth has won the first 2 legs of the Grand Slam. Last time we had that happen was 2002 with Tiger Woods. It's been a while, obviously 13 years. So here we are again with a golfer who is a male golfer who's won the first 2 legs of that Grand Slam, the Masters U.S. Open. Can he do it at the British Open, the PGA? Odds are extremely high against that. But it will be fun to watch and to see if he can pull it off.
Christine Brennan of the USA Today at C. Sports on Twitter.
You've touched upon this, Christine, but just how bad were the conditions of the course at Chambers Bay?
Bad. Obviously we weren't walking on the course. We weren't playing the course, of course, in the media. We were not doing any of that. But when you hear people like Ernie Els and Rory McIlroy and Henrik Stenson and, of course, Billy Horschel just go off on this. I mean, we're talking some really classy people with Ernie Els, McIlroy, people who aren't known for being whiners. And when they're talking, Henrik Stenson's quote, I think, was the best of all of them, that the green's like putting on broccoli. And then Rory was asked about it, and I was there for that, and he said, well, I don't know, it's not the color of broccoli, it's more like cauliflower. I mean, it was funny, and it's not the end of the world. And for people listening right now, there are far bigger issues in our world, our country, maybe even sports, than the greens at Chambers Bay. But for that moment, it was an issue and a conversation, topic of conversation. Rightly so. That's what we do. We cover this stuff. And it really was extraordinary how they almost to a man they'd come off and there'd be a complaint or a problem. And that said, obviously, putts did eventually get into the hole. The ball made it there, and on they went. But I think for me, the bigger issue was the spectators and how they were treated by the U.S. Golf Association. I have 2 columns online, and people can look a few down on my Twitter feed and see the first column about Chambers Bay. And I had a fan I interviewed, and he and his wife and her family were standing in line for 20 minutes to get into one of the grandstands along the 18th green. So I interviewed him, and he said you really can't see anything here. He paid $134 for his ticket. So did his wife. She paid $134. Her mom paid that, and her sister paid that. They're all together, each of them, and they decided to come out because they had the tickets, and they were from Seattle, even though they ended up now they're living in Denver. So he says, you really can't see anything. Here's a spectator at the tournament for the second day. Can't see anything. He said, basically, you come here to buy merchandise and tell people that you were here. Yeah. That the United States Golf Association has to fix that. That is awful. You cannot mistreat spectators like that, and you can't take them for granted like that. Maybe people continue to do that, but it is amazing to me that there were dead ends, there were hills, there were cliffs. You just could not walk the golf course. You could go a little ways, you had to stop. People tumbling down hills. It was a real problem, and I just think a disgrace in terms of how you're treating fans who, of course, that's your fan base, and these are the people you need desperately.
Christine Brennan of the USA Today at @CBrennanSports Sports on Twitter. Christine, it was great wrapping up the U.S. Open with you. Safe travels back, and I know you're really busy today. Thanks so much for your time.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. Always great to talk to you, and yes, it was fun. Thanks. We'll talk soon. Take care.